Coby White was listed as one of the 5 free agents to get the most attention in the summer of 2026. How can the Bulls get ready to prepare themselves for what those negotiations are going to look like? Plus, talk a little bit about how fans are comparing the Coby White situation already to Josh Giddey, but it's really not comparative. We're going to talk about why on today's episode. We're also going to look at the Chicago Bulls being urged to trade for Zion Williamson, but also other players on the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll talk about all that and dive a little bit into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into the content for today, y'all. And Bleacher Report has listed Coby White as one of the free agents to get the most attention in the summer of 2026. We've been talking a lot about Coby White recently, as kind of expected. The conversation, especially once Josh Giddey is signed, right? Once Josh Giddey's contract is signed, it's going to really shift towards what the future of Coby White and the Chicago Bulls are going to be. I think that's going to be a conversation throughout the season. It's going to be something a lot of people talk about. You're going to hear the commentary team, everything talk really about that. And so when you look at this list with Coby White, right, look at some of the players that are listed in this list. One of them is one of the players that's actually a restricted free agent this season. But of course, you have Trey Young being listed there as number 1. Makes a lot of sense. I think when you look at Trey Young is going to, with the not a max contract offer coming from the Atlanta Hawks, is going to put a lot of teams in a position to try to make a move for Trey Young. Now, he does have a player option, so we'll see if he ends up opting out. But if he does opt out of that player option, Trey Young's probably going to be one of the top free agents on that market. Next up, Giannis Antetokounmpo there at number 2. And the Giannis thing is an interesting situation to watch around the NBA as a whole anyway, because of the situation going on with the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm going to get more into detail on that over on NBA Central, so make sure you guys go and check out NBA Central, which is my general NBA channel that I post about general NBA things. And then LeBron James there at number 3. Jonathan Kuminga and Coby White round out the top 5 at number 4 and 5, respectively. Coby White is in an interesting situation. Now, I don't want to explain it all over again, but basically is that the Bulls can't extend, they can extend Coby White. They can give him an extension of $89 million over 4 years with and so that's because based off his starting salary of 12.9, so he can only get 140% of that. Like, reportedly, Coby White wants $31 million, and so that's going to put him at a position to go into the open market just so he can get that full money. Now, as I've said before, is that the Bulls, there's still that period of time where you can negotiate with your own free agents, right? Yes, the Bulls can extend him at any time during the season, but that's that $89 million extension, right? But there's a period of time before free agency officially opens and you can sign other teams' free agents that the Bulls will have an exclusive negotiating window with Coby White, and he's still considered an unrestricted free agent where he can get that $30 million that reportedly he wants. That's going to be really important for the Bulls in this. I think that's going to be hugely important because they're going to be able to, at that point, they'll be able to offer him the same thing anybody else can, and that's what it's going to come down to. Now, there are going to be a lot of teams with money in the summer of 26, and that's going to put the Bulls in a unique situation where if he does hit the open market and takes meetings with other teams, there are going to be a lot of teams. Now, the Bulls can offer him the extra 5th year. I don't know if they're going to be inclined to do that. Just because of the way that the contracts worked out. We've talked about aligning Josh Giddey with Modest Buzella's contract extension, aligning Coby White with Noah Essega's contract extension, ideally, because that just offers you an ability to kind of pivot before on major deals when you have to make another big decision. So, and that's just something that the framework that they could look at doesn't necessarily mean that they will, but it is a framework that they could look at, right? But Coby White, I talked about it here on Saturday's episode, where Coby White statistically ranks in just about the top 10 to 12 of almost every statistical category for a shooting guard. And, he was just also listed by another outlet as a top 12 shooting guard in this league. Coby White's going to get paid. Now, the question is that going to be the Chicago Bulls that pay them? Now, the Bulls have the most cap space. They're slated to have the most cap space in the league next summer. So money is not a problem. And, we already heard a lot of things as far as even people comparing the Zach LaVine situation to Josh Giddey. They're nothing similar. And even less so for Coby White as well. One of the biggest issues, and I think the plot's been lost a little bit. One of the biggest misconceptions about the Zach LaVine situation is that the contract that they gave him was the most restrictive thing in that, or why they wanted to move off of him. It was the combination of a lot of things. It was they had spent a lot of first round capital to put that version of the team together, so they didn't have the lateral movement or the influx of young talent coming in because of how many first round picks they gave up to put that team together. 2 first round picks for Nikola Vucevic, another first round pick for DeMar DeRozan, right? They gave up major first round picks. And then, they still had some because of the nature of the NBA, you can't get rid of all your first round picks, but they gave up a lot of that. On top of that, it was an aging roster, over 30 of all players making decent money. The Bulls really aren't in that situation. We have all our first round picks. Doesn't look like we're going to be shaped up to give up anytime soon. Our cap sheet is one of the best in the NBA over the next 5 years. And so it's just a little bit different of a situation. And then even for those fans that compare it to Josh Giddey, you see the comments all the time. Oh, it's okay to pay Josh Giddey, but Coby White, but low ball Josh Giddey. It's situation. If you don't understand that the situation of free agency is going to matter way more than what it ever has before, and basically because the Josh Giddey is restricted, the Bulls had the ability to play hardball with Josh Giddey and not really suffer any consequences unless he's going to take the qualifying offer, which again, I've told you guys he's not. He would have done it by now, but it doesn't mean that can't change, right? So of being a victim of the circumstances, each offseason, you're going to have to look at the circumstance, and you're going to have to look at what the market dictates and also the specific situation of that player. Josh Giddey's in a much different situation than Coby White. Josh Giddey was first year on the Chicago Bulls team. He goes into restricted free agency. Coby White's been here. He's been here his whole entire career. He was drafted here, and while the front office has changed, this front office is the front office that gave him his deal now. Once my mindset, a lot of people like to use that thought process. Well, he's not this front office's guy. My mindset has always been, once you pay the guy, that's your guy, right? So, he decided to pay Coby White. And so it's in that situation where it's just a little bit different, right? And I think that we've seen Coby get better every year. Coby's responded to a change of positions every year. And Josh Giddey's done that too, but he did that mainly with the OKC Thunder, not here in Chicago. So, again, different situations that I get it in comparing the money because we're hearing that they want similar money. Of course, there's going to be a natural comparison there, but the situations are vastly different. And thus, because the Bulls basically let the market dictate Josh Giddey. They did. If there was more of a market for Josh Giddey and there was a team willing to offer that $30 million, the Bulls probably would have done that or matched the offer and moved on. The market's going to dictate what Coby White is. And so far, the market looks like a player that is going to dictate that. So they're going to pay that. Even for the people who say, well, we can't play players because we're only a playing team. Yeah, okay. And that's not a good mindset to me when people say that about Coby. Oh, we can't pay Coby White that because, he's worth it, but we can't be the ones to pay him because we're only a playing team. Okay, so you want to be a sub-playing team? And you already know, if you're being objective, this isn't the front office that's going to do something to make them a sub-playing team. They're going to be trying to win, right? And even the thought process of you have talent, and even if people recognize, if you can say, oh, yeah, he's worth that money, team's going to pay him that, but we shouldn't we should just let him walk. No, like the thought process that people have of, oh, we should just let everybody walk until we get a star. Okay, then what? If Modest does turn into a star, for example, and now we've let every talented player around, regardless of the level of talent, go, where's that going to leave him? Because there's been a lot of players with star level talent that ain't been able to go nowhere because their team doesn't have the right talent around them. So, that's the mindset that I have in it. Maybe it's a more binary mindset. I can understand that. But to me, it's just, you don't let talent walk out while you're trying to win games and you're trying to develop. You want your talent to develop, what I always say, in structure. And that's what having players of other talent around, it gives them. It's not just as simple as, oh, I don't want that player around because I want this player to get all the shots. All right, that's how you develop Zach LaVine's. That's how you develop Zach LaVine's players that can play, that can put up big numbers, that you're gonna have to pay because the numbers dictate that they play. But then you haven't really had a chance to really see, like, over that time that we had Zach LaVine, yeah, we had Laurie come in and out of there, but then Laurie was kind of up and down after his first 2 years, and coaching was a thing. But we had Zach LaVine, and for the most part, Zach LaVine did not have the best teammates or best coaching around him. And then when we got into a situation of now we're finally able to put talent around Zach LaVine, he's basically already on a max level contract. And then we got to see, like, oh, Zach isn't necessarily the best with other players around him. Yeah, he can put up numbers, but it's not really the kind of the best basketball. And so that's how you create those type of players, because they haven't learned how to play in structure. If Zach LaVine had to play in more of a structure early on, maybe instead of averaging the over 20 points per game, maybe he's closer to 19, maybe a borderline 20-point per game score. And that's perfectly fine, but maybe he's learned how to do that playing off another big-time scorer, playing off a dominant point guard. Maybe he's learned how to do that then and refine those skills. That's just the way I look at it. Again, not saying that it's wholly true and just take it as gospel, but that's the way that I look at it. To get it back to Coby White, though, Coby White, they are now in a situation where either you're going to have to pay him or you're going to have to deal him. That's really where it is. And so far from what we've heard is that the Bulls have turned down trade offers for Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu, and they continue to turn down trade calls on Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu. And so thus, that tells me that you want to keep these guys. Or you could say, flip side, just against my own argument, you could say, oh, well, maybe they're turning down those calls right now to drive up that value because they're making it look like they don't want to move those guys. And if they did that, that would be some of the most chess moves that AK has ever done. So it's either one of the two. I'm going to lean on the side of that they are trying to, that they are turning down those calls because they want to keep them there. I guess we'll see what the future does hold. But let me know what you guys think, all of that down below. But I want to get into the next topic. This is an article from Clutch Points in which they are calling for the Chicago Bulls to trade for Zion Williamson, or if not Zion Williamson, take advantage of where the Pelicans are headed with their roster and maybe get some other players from the Pelicans. I'm going to go into the article there where it says this. There seems to be no sense of urgency among members of the Bulls front office for this team to take the next step. They chose not to bottom out so they don't get a chance to pick high in the draft. And yet they do not attract free agents nor make a push for the best players in the league via trade. This has to change for the Bulls to return to playoff contention. Then they get into the interesting part as far as for Zion Williamson, right? Saying that the Pelicans could be looking to pivot off Zion Williamson because of the situation there, new front office. And this is not an uncommon thought, right? We've talked about this several times before. This has popped up multiple times in the case that the Bulls would trade for Zion Williamson. Now, I'm of the mind that I've seen enough players with already major injury concerns be acquired by the Bulls, Jabari Parker, Lonzo Ball, and it never works out for us. Now, Zion's young, and there is still a chance that Zion could put together a healthy season. But, one thing that I don't want to see with Zion that we see every summer is the Zion Weight Watch. Is the fact that at the beginning of you remember last year where it was like, hey, listen, look at Zion. He lost so much weight. Zion has a neck. By the end of the season, the weight was back on. And so it's at this point, it's just, I get the high risk, high reward potential with Zion Williamson. Make no mistake about it, right? I think when you look at the Bulls, we don't have the blue chip talent yet. Modest could be that guy. I think that Josh Giddey could eventually be looked at as that guy as well. He has to continue to develop the type of things that he needs to do. But the fact of the matter is that almost every front office has to take a risk at some point to become a championship contender. They say as much in this article in Clutch Points. By the way, I didn't say the writer. This was read by Jay Pagadon. So shout out to Jed who wrote that article. They say as much in the article that eventually the Bulls are going to have to take a risk. Now, that risk can come via the draft on a player, reaching on a player. It can come via making a trade like a player for Zion Williamson. And the thing is that Zion, we know how dominant he can be when he's on the basketball court. I don't think anybody's going to say that when Zion is healthy and when he's on the basketball court, he's an absolutely dominant player. The problem is how much he's on the basketball court and how much are you willing to bet on his ability to stay on the basketball court as much as you need. Now, there is a thought process from some fans that, you can get Zion for low. If they were going to trade Zion for low, that deal would have probably already been done. I don't think they're trying to lowball Zion Williamson to the point where it's like, we're just willing to give him up for a first-round pick. If that is the case, then that's almost worth the risk because how high the reward could possibly be for Zion at 25 years old is crazy. It's ridiculous, right? But I have an inkling that it's going to be more than that. This is a guy that for his NBA career has averaged 24 points per game. Now, the problem is that he's only played over 70 games once in his 5-year NBA career, over 60 games twice. That's a 70 season and his second year where he's played 61 games. Other than that, 24 games played, 29 games played, 30 games played last year. That is a huge risk. And so the thing about it is being urged to trade for Zion, what's the deal looking like? Is a big question in that. And that's one of the questions that you have. And then not even get to the out of the basketball things. Let's just look at all the off the court issues that he's been dealing with recently, right? The violence, misconduct, the allegations. I'm just going to leave it at that. The allegations, go and look that up. And so I don't see the Bulls wanting to make a trade for a player that has the injury concerns, off the court concerns, and you'd more likely have to give up some major assets for. Enter the second part of this article, and this is why I do love this article, right? Is that a lot of times people write articles like this and they focus so much on the high end, they don't have a reasonable take in it. Like earlier in the episode, I try to always have a take against whatever my stance is. They actually have this in this article. They said that if the Pelicans do look to blow up some of their roster, the Bulls should take a look at some of the other players. So reportedly earlier in the offseason, the Pelicans have said that they have not ruled out the possibility of trading either Trey Murphy III or Herb Jones. Now, I do see interest in either one of these players. I get it that we just acquired Isaac Okoro, make no mistake about it. But if you can get Herb Jones, Herb can do everything that Isaac Okoro can do, and he's better at it, in my personal opinion. I think he's a better on-ball defender. I think that he's also a player that doesn't need the ball as much in his hands, and that he's probably going to end up being a better three-point shooter. And that's what I look at. And again, no knock on Isaac Okoro, but what we've talked about, those are the type of guys that, like the Herb Jones, that you want to have around a player like Josh Giddey. You just want players like that. 26 years old, 6'7", 206 pounds. This guy's a defender, right? Can play and guard multiple positions. He's also a decent three-point shooter at a 36% three-point shooter for his career. In the 2023-24 season, he actually shot 41% from three, taking 3.6 per game. Now, last season, he only played 20 games, but he took the same 3.6 and only hit it at 30%, but maybe it was the injuries that there. But career 36% three-point shooter, right around where Isaac Okoro is. Now, the question that a lot of people are going to ask is that, is that a wash? Okay, cool. It may be, right? But I like the thought process of trading for Herb Jones. I think that Herb is everything that we wanted Patrick Williams to be in reason, right? Without really taking up the huge aspect of that. Then you look at Trey Murphy III. And this is a player that I tell you what, if Trey Murphy III becomes available, especially with somebody who is 6'8" as a shooting guard, and I would definitely look at it, especially too, if the Bulls do lose Coby White in free agency, again, knock on wood, hope that doesn't happen, Trey Murphy III is the type of player that I would absolutely put in there. Now, injury concerns with him too. Last year, 53 games played. The year before that, only 57 games played. Now, he did average 21 points per game last year. He became a 36% three-point shooter. He's been a 38% three-point shooter for his career, taking 6.2 per game and averaged 13 points per game for his career. If either one of these players become available by the New Orleans Pelicans, the Bulls should absolutely be on the line. Again, Trey Murphy III, 25 years old, fits that timeline. More so with Trey Murphy, though, to me, it would be, well, I don't know, because I think Trey Murphy could also play the three, right? But then you're taking shots away from Josh Giddey. I mean, from Matas Buzelis, technically. Trey Murphy, for his career, averages 10 shots per game. He was up to 15 per game last year, 45% shooter for his career. But these are players that I can see the Bulls very well being interested in if the Pelicans decide to start trading off pieces of their roster. We'll see if they do. But let me know what you guys think on that. Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Which one would you target if they become available by the Pelicans? Where would you have them fit in? Or do you think that the Bulls should go after kind of the guys that are more functional that can play on this team? Or should they take their shot and trade for Zion Williamson? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, you guys know Monday is overflow for the mailbag. We had a couple of voicemails. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. This has been something that over the last 2 months, I've been a lot trying to clear up because people have made complaints, listeners and the viewers on YouTube, and you have to respect your audience, is that some of you guys call in with some terrible audio quality. There's a voicemail from Reggie that I couldn't use. There's another one from Jerry earlier in the week that I couldn't use. Clean up the audio quality, guys. Make sure you guys are leaving. You can also listen to the voicemails after you leave them, and just see. Ask yourself, is that something you would want? Not the content of it. If the voicemail sounds good, regardless of what you're talking about, I'll play it on the show whether I agree or disagree. But they're talking about the sound quality of it. Just take a look at that. But with that said, we did get a voicemail from Bulls Up North. We're going to go ahead and play that now.
Hey, Hayes, this is Bulls Up North, and I got a question for you about Artūras Karnišovas. So, as we all know, Artūras drafted Nikola Jokic. Sorry, wrong player. And he basically lucked into that one. My question is, why do you think here in Chicago he has been so hesitant to draft a center for this team? It seems to me that he's basically glossed over every single position he could for this team. Now, keep in mind, he came to this team too as if he was going to be some kind of savior for this team. He promised everything. He promised championships. He promised to build organically. But he has overlooked time and time again. And I have to wonder, is it mental with him? Like, every year we've been saying we need a defensive big. There has been countless defensive big men in every draft that he has had and been involved with every year with the Bulls. And instead of going for that, and then, by the way, I think part of it's, like I said, mental with him. He might be afraid to just screw it up as he did when he made the Nikola Vucevic trade. I don't know. This is just my thoughts. Tell me what you think, Hayes. Have a good day. Peace.
Why has AK been hesitant to draft a center? I think there's reasons to this, right? And I think when you look at it, early on we had Vooch, and I don't think that the Bulls were going to spend first-round capital in the little bit that they had. Keep in mind, we gave up so many first-round picks. I think they were trying to look at players that they thought were going to develop into something that they needed on the team, mainly because you already had Nikola Vucevic. Yes, Walker Kessler was there, and Walker Kessler brought so much of what we were missing at the center position. But I think AK looked at it and said, let's go, that we need more on-ball defenders for this version of the team. Let's go after Terry, who we think has good upside. I'm not saying that it was the right decision. I'm just saying that I can see where some of the thought process, when you had Vooch, that wasn't, or you still have Vooch, that is a consistent double-double threat for you. He just needs defense around him. They try to improve that, right? I also think last season, I do think if Modest had not been on the board, Khalil Ware probably would have been the pick. He probably would have been the pick. Now, there's some other players that you can look at as their play style and makeup that you can say AK could have fallen in love with too. But just from the inklings, it seemed like Khalil Ware would have probably been that pick. But they went high upside with Modest, and Modest has tremendous upside. So I think that's a part into it as well. And then I think when you look at Noah Essengay, I think that they looked at Noah Essengay and they looked at clear upside over a player like Thomas Sorber, over a player like Asa Newell. And I think they saw the upside in that first, especially defensively, because he may be better than both those players defensively on ball wise. Now, again, you guys know I was a Thomas Sorber guy. So I think that that's a place. Now, is he terrified? Like you asked, is he terrified because of, of the trade for Vooch? I think the trade for Vooch, keep in mind, the Bulls were on pace to make the playoffs when we first traded for Vooch, even before Lonzo and DeMar DeRozan. The problem with it is that we ended up getting DeMar here, who then completely changed the way that Nikola Vucevic had to play. And I think that that's the thing that it was, is that it's not that Vooch has been necessarily bad, it's that we don't have the roster to support Vooch's shortcomings, and then we changed one of his best aspects, and that's how he scores the ball. So I think that that's a part into it, but I think it's kind of more straightforward than what we make it out to be. But there's also that question that's fair enough. Like, does AK evaluate center talent the best? I guess we'll see what happens in that one, because hopefully he can, because eventually we're going to need that different type of center to help change the way that the Bulls play. So you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong on anything that you said. We'll see what happens here, though, bro. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773 270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.